Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment John Lund as
Johnny Dollar.
Roger Stern, Dollar.
Oh, hello, Mr. Stern. What can I do for you?
We insure Mr. James Forbes. He was killed last night. It looks like an accident, but there's always the chance it might not be. Can you take the job?
Sure. How about the details?
Well, come on down to the office as soon as you can, and I'll give you what we've got.
I'll catch the first train out.
the makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you John Lund in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. When your mouth and throat feel hot and dry, a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint gives you quick, long-lasting refreshment. The lively, full-bodied spearmint flavor cools your mouth and freshens your taste. The chewing itself helps keep your throat pleasantly moist. Best of all, you can chew and enjoy refreshing Wrigley's Spearmint Gum almost any time and any place. Keep a package handy right in your purse or pocket so you can chew a stick whenever you want it. For refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Millions enjoy it, and you will too.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Intercontinental Indemnity and Bonding Corporation, New York City. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the James Forbes matter. Expense account item 1, $13.95, train fare and incidentals between Hartford and New York City. After receiving from you the details regarding the death of James Forbes, I registered at the Madison Hotel and went directly to the 5th Precinct Police Station and interviewed Lieutenant Arthur Parkhill, who was handling the case.
Well, there really isn't much more to tell, Mr. Dollar, other than what you know.
You're convinced it was an accident?
I'm convinced he fell over the edge of a 110-foot cliff, that it looks like an accident. Certainly doesn't mean the case is closed, but so far there's no motive for murder.
There's a wife.
Yeah?
Mr. Forbes had quite a bit of money.
Well, that's an understatement. Mr. Forbes was loaded.
And Mrs. Forbes gets everything, including a $500,000 insurance policy.
Look, that's the first thing we considered, but just because her husband's got money and a great big fat insurance policy...
Now, wait a minute. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job.
And we've checked the wife. Checked her good. The way it looks, she liked being married. She was in love with her husband. When he went over the cliff, she was in the house. 4 servants can swear to it.
He just fell over the cliff.
According to everything we can find out, he took long walks every night along the cliffs by the ocean. Last night it was unusually foggy. Certainly possible he got too close to the edge, missed his footing, and did a high dive.
How about suicide?
At least there's no reason we can come up with. Good health, business doing better than it ever has.
Textiles, isn't it?
Yeah, biggest in the country. There's absolutely nothing that indicates suicide, especially no suicide note. There usually is.
Uh-huh. The Forbes estate is out on the island, isn't it?
Yeah. Gonna take a run up?
Yeah, I thought I might. Well, thanks for your help. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, Mr. Dollar. Let me know if you come across anything.
Expense account item 2, 75 cents. Cab fare to a garage where I rented a car and drove out to the island. The Forbes mansion stood in the middle of a lot of acreage along the shore at the northeastern tip.
Yes?
I'd like to see Mrs. Forbes, please.
I'm afraid Mrs. Forbes is seeing no one.
Tell her Mr. Dollar is here. I believe Mr. Stern from my company called Mrs. Forbes and told her I was coming out.
Mr. Dollar?
That's right.
If you'll wait a moment.
Sure. Take your time.
Mrs. Forbes will see you, Mr. Dollar. Mrs. Forbes was expecting you, but neglected to tell me. Mr. Dollar, ma'am.
Come in, Mr. Dollar. I'm Mrs. Forbes.
How do you do?
Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Mr. Stern called, said you were coming out. He seemed to think it was necessary.
Yes, routine. Unfortunately, in a matter like this...
I understand.
Better to get it over with.
I suppose so.
Just a few questions. What time did Mr. Forbes leave the house last night?
Right after dinner, around 9.
I understand he was in the habit of taking walks.
Yes,
Last night was the same as any other night.
yes.
He seemed all right.
He was fine. Wonderful spirits.
Who found him?
The police.
Did you call them?
Yes, after he'd been gone longer than usual, I began to worry. By 12 o'clock, I sent William, my butler, out in the car to look for him. When William returned, I had him call the police. They didn't find him until morning.
You're convinced it was an accident?
My husband didn't commit suicide, Mr. Dollar.
Did he have any enemies?
No. No one killed him, Mr. Dollar. Now, if you don't mind, I really don't feel too well.
Of course. There's just one more thing.
Yes?
I'd like to take a look at the place, the spot.
I'll have William show you.
Thanks.
I'm sorry I can't be of more help, Mr. Dollar, but there's really nothing to help you with. My husband was killed in an accident. He wasn't murdered, and he didn't commit suicide. My husband was a fine and wonderful man. I loved him very much.
Of course.
I'll call William and have him show you the way down to the cliffs. It's been nice meeting you.
This is a terrible thing, William.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been with the Forbes?
10 years, sir.
Theirs was a good marriage.
Oh, yes, sir. About another 100 yards, sir. Now, you can stop here. Right over here, sir. They found Mr. Forbes right down there, sir.
Long drop.
Yes, sir.
Well, I guess under the right circumstances, it'd be pretty easy to miss your footing along here.
It was very foggy last night.
Yeah. Well, come on. I'll drive you back.
Mr. Dollar. Mr. Dollar, I don't know quite how to say this. I've nothing ready to go on except, well, I'm not convinced that Mr. Forbes' death was an accident.
Why aren't you?
It's hard to say. Until this morning, until sometime after they found him, I didn't think it could be anything else. When the police questioned me, I didn't even consider another possibility. But Mr. Forbes has been taking walks at night every night ever since I came to work. He's walked in all kinds of weather. He knew those cliffs from one end to the other.
Well, people take showers in the same shower year after year, and still a certain percentage of them slip and break their necks.
It's not just the walks and the fact that Mr. Forbes was so familiar with these cliffs. It's a lot of little things that have happened over the past 2 or 3 months. Nothing really definite. Telephone calls.
What kind of telephone calls?
Several times Mrs. Forbes has made calls. Several times I happened to overhear part of the conversations. They were affectionate.
Affectionate?
Yes, I thought she was talking to Mr. Forbes, but several times I discovered through dinner conversations between Mr. and Mrs. Forbes that she hadn't spoken to him during the day that he'd been out of the city. Well, it's really awfully hard to explain.
Just how affectionate were these calls?
Quite affectionate.
You think Mrs. Forbes has been playing around?
I don't know, sir. But in the last few months, when Mr. Forbes left, she'd informed me she was going to town to visit with friends. And she'd very seldom return until the day before Mr. Forbes was supposed to be back from his trip. Why, on one of these occasions, Mrs. Weatherwax, the woman Mrs. Forbes was supposed to be visiting, came to the house calling on Mrs. Forbes. Well, from her conversation, I gathered she hadn't seen Mrs. Forbes for some time.
Did you say anything about it?
To whom? To Mr. Forbes? Certainly not. I didn't think that much about it at the time.
Anything else?
No, sir. But I suddenly felt that I must tell someone. Sir, if Mrs. Forbes should find out, she'd surely dismiss me, and I couldn't blame her.
I won't say anything.
Thank you, sir.
Well, come on. We'd better start back.
I do hope I haven't started something I'll be sorry for.
Do me a favor.
Well, certainly.
If Mrs. Forbes gets any more of those phone calls, see if you can find out who's on the other end of the line.
I'll try.
You can reach me at the Madison Hotel.
Yes, sir.
I drove William back to the house, then headed for the city. It was close to 5 o'clock when I got back to my hotel and called Lieutenant Parkhill. I told him about my conversation with the butler, and he was interested. He agreed to do some more checking on Mrs. Forbes' friends, especially the men. Expense account item 3, $7.50, dinner. After which I took a short walk, then returned to my hotel to get a good night's sleep. I was just turning off the light when the phone rang. Johnny Dollar.
This is William, Mr. Dollar, the Forbes butler.
Oh, yes, William.
Mrs. Forbes received a phone call about half an hour ago.
You find out who he is?
No, sir.
Well, that's not going to help much.
I thought you could discover his identity.
How could I do that?
Mrs. Forbes just left the house. I overheard her agree to meet the party in the city.
Where in the city?
Well, I don't know, but I thought you could intercept Mrs. Forbes as she comes off the George Washington Bridge.
William, you have the soul of a Sherlock.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Forbes is driving the gray Cadillac sedan. License number 6A31593.
Friends, no matter what kind of work you do, it's a real help to chew delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum right while you're working. When you're warm or tired, for instance, the lively, full-bodied spearmint flavor is really refreshing. It helps keep your mouth and throat feeling cool and moist. Chewing on that smooth, good-tasting piece of Wrigley's Spearmint makes the time pass more pleasantly, too. It seems to make your work go smoother and easier. Keep a package or two of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy all the time. Enjoy chewing Wrigley's Spearmint while you're working and at other times. That's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
It took me 5 minutes to get back into my clothes and make it down to my car. 20 minutes after that, I was parking at the city side entrance of the Washington Bridge, waiting for Mrs. Forbes to show up in her gray Cadillac. I waited about a half hour. She came off the bridge doing a little better than the speed limit and turned south. I started tailing her. I stayed about a block behind, and Mrs. Forbes led me across town. Suddenly, at the corner of 41st and 5th, she pulled up to the curb, and a man stepped up to the car, quickly opened the door, and climbed in. They drove away, and I continued to follow. I followed for about another hour while Mrs. Forbes just drove around, obviously headed for no place in particular, just talking things over with her passenger. About 11:30, she made a left turn, cut back across town, and pulled up in front of an address on 108th Street. Her passenger got out, said something, threw her a kiss, and went into the building. After Mrs. Forbes had driven out of sight, I went down to the building the man had entered and looked through the glass door. He was going into an apartment at the end of the hall. I checked the apartment number, 1D. The nameplate on the mailbox outside was Roger Phillips.
Now, I don't know Roger Phillips, Dollar. Name's familiar, though. I'll check on it. Where are you?
In a drugstore on the corner. Hey.
What?
Cab just pulled up in front.
Of the drugstore?
No, 953 East. I can see it through the... Hold it.
What?
I'll call you later, Lieutenant. My man just came out. He's getting into the cab. Goodbye. The cab was 2 blocks away and turning left by the time I was able to follow. It led me across town to the waterfront in a small, tired saloon named the Blue Toad. I watched while my man paid off his driver, then I followed him into the dive. The Blue Toad was one room, a few tables and a bar. The customers were off the waterfront, seamen, stevedores, and bums with saltwater faces and an occasional tattoo. The air smelled like stale beer, live bait, and bad tobacco. I watched my man cut his way through the heavy blue haze and sit down. Another man sat at the table, a short man with a dark face. I found a table near the door, gave my order to a waiter with a crusty apron, and relaxed to see what was going to happen.
Hello?
Huh? Oh.
You alone?
Oh. Yeah, but I'm,
Buy me a drink, huh?
Sure. Well, what'll it be?
Champagne. Doesn't that get a laugh?
Was it supposed to?
Well, if I was a nice-looking guy, wearing a nice-looking suit, and I just walked into this dump and a dame like me ordered champagne, oh, forget it. I was just trying to start a conversation.
You started it.
I work on a percentage. Buy me a scotch and I'll leave you alone.
Relax. I'm not expecting anybody.
Thanks.
You got any influence with the waiter? I ordered a drink 10 minutes ago.
He's probably out in the alley. It's not well. About this time of night, he can't stand the smoke and goes out to stock up on fresh air. He'll be right back.
What's your name?
Jane. Yours should be, Mike? Or Bill? Yeah, you look kind of like a Mike.
Why?
I don't know. Feeling you get when you look at some people. Some people look like certain names.
It's Johnny.
Johnny?
Doesn't fit?
I guess so. Who are you watching, Johnny?
What makes you think I'm watching somebody?
Because you are. You've been watching those two guys in the back.
Okay.
Cop?
Uh-uh.
The good-looking one just passed Timmy a bundle of money.
You know the little dark guy?
Forget it, huh?
Tell me about Timmy.
Tell me about Johnny.
I'm not a cop.
Nope. A cop would know all about Timmy. The good-looking one's leaving.
I'm interested in Timmy.
And Timmy or the money he just got?
Both.
You're not a stick-up man, Johnny.
Not a bit.
I'd like to help, but Timmy finds out about things. Timmy's a bad boy. Hasn't got a friend in the world. Not even me. You leaving?
Yeah. Oh, here. Buy some champagne.
Thanks. Bye, Johnny.
Outside, the air was fresh and clean. I got into my car, lit a cigarette, and waited for the dark little man named Timmy to come out. In about 5 minutes, he did. He crossed the street and climbed into a car. He drove west, and I followed. About 10 blocks later, I stopped and watched Timmy park in an all-night garage, then crossed to a hotel called the Bayview. He went in. I found a phone and called Lieutenant Parkhill.
Timmy?
About 5'9", dark complexion, dresses a little too sharp.
Timmy Collins.
Oh, what about him?
Bad boy.
Yeah, so I've heard.
Assassin, but nobody's been able to prove it. I didn't even know he was in town. He shouldn't be.
Why not?
Oh, it was an old rap. Forgery.
Huh. You find anything on Roger Phillips?
Oh, yeah. Socialite playboy. Makes the columns about once or twice a week. Never very flattering.
Does he know Mrs. Forbes?
Oh, he might. Runs around in that circle. He's been in town for about a year now. He comes from...
What's the matter?
Just going to say he comes from Cleveland.
Yeah?
Just remembered. So does Timmy Collins.
Did you check on Phillips in Cleveland?
Well, the kickback hasn't come in yet. Won't get it till tomorrow morning. Only thing we've got on him here is what I've already told you.
What are you going to do about Timmy?
Let him alone for a while. Stake out the hotel, see what he's up to. What are you going to do?
Go back to my hotel and get some sleep. I'm bushed.
And I'll talk to you in the morning.
Yeah. Expense account item 4, $2.65. Breakfast the next morning with Lieutenant Parkhill at a waffle shop across the street from the precinct.
Roger Phillips skipped Cleveland owing a lot of money. The Cleveland report gives him a clean police record, but one thing's pretty interesting. Most of the money he owed was for gambling debts. Owed it to Timmy Collins.
Huh.
Unless we've wandered too far out in left field, I got a hunch Timmy killed Forbes. Met him on that lonely road by the cliffs and gave him a shove.
Yeah, I have the same hunch. Mrs. Forbes falls for Phillips, and together they plan to eliminate the husband. Phillips makes a deal with Timmy, maybe agrees to give him a big interest on the debt when he marries Mrs. Forbes and gets his hands into all that money. Does Phillips have enough money to pay for a job like that?
Well, if he doesn't, he probably borrowed it from Mrs. Forbes.
It was a big stack of bills. Why don't you check with Mrs. Forbes' banks and see if she withdrew a large amount in the last couple of days?
Yeah, right. Or, want some more coffee?
No, I think I'll make a call on Roger Phillips. Maybe I can force this thing out in the open.
What are you going to tell him?
Enough to scare him, get him into action. When people get frightened, they get careless.
Yeah, but they can get dangerous, too. You watch yourself.
Oh, like a hawk. Roger Phillips was still sleeping when I knocked on the door. I kept pounding till he opened it and squinted at me through puffy eyes. I introduced myself, and he showed me into a well-furnished small apartment. He put on some coffee, lit a cigarette, and sat down on the couch.
Oh, it's a little early for me, Mr.
Dollar.
Yeah. Sit down. The coffee won't take long. You're an insurance investigator.
That's right.
Well, I don't understand. What do you want to talk to me about?
Mrs. Forbes.
Mrs. Forbes?
You know her, don't you?
Mrs. Forbes. Well, I know one Mrs. Forbes, a casual.
I'm not going to play with you, Phillips. I'm talking about the Mrs. Forbes who picked you up last night and gave you a large amount of money.
Look, I don't know what this is all about.
I think you do.
I said I didn't. I was in my apartment all last night. Nobody picked me up, and certainly nobody gave me any money.
You went to a dump called the Blue Toad, and you met a man named
Get
Timmy.
out of here.
You're in big trouble, friend. I know all about Cleveland and Timmy Collins and Mrs. Forbes, and I think when Mrs. Forbes finds out about the deal you made with Timmy, she'll tell me everything. We'll see each other again. Oh, your coffee's boiling. Well, I'd given him the bait. A lot of hunches, but from his reaction, I was sure I'd scored. I went downstairs, crossed the street to the drugstore, waited 5 minutes to give Roger enough time to make his calls, then I slid into the phone booth and made a call of my own.
Yes, sir. Mr. Forbes' residence.
William, this is Mr. Dollar.
Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Dollar. I was just going to call you, sir.
Did Mrs. Forbes just receive a call?
Yes, sir, just a moment ago. It was from the same man. She's going to meet him.
Meet him? Where?
By the cliffs.
Phillips had taken the bait. Only 2 people could implicate him in Forbes' murder, Mrs. Forbes and Timmy, and he'd called Mrs. Forbes to meet him by the cliffs. I put in another call to Lieutenant Parkhill.
That's right, Johnny. The stakeout has a tap on Timmy's phone. Phillips just called him, said to pick him up as soon as he could. Phillips told Timmy there was trouble, that some guy named Dollar had found out about the whole setup. Shame on you.
We want to stop a couple killings. We better get right out there.
A couple of killings?
Sure. Phillips lets Timmy take care of Mrs. Forbes, then he takes care of Timmy. It's the only way he can protect himself.
I'll pick you up in 5 minutes. Oh, by the way, I checked with the bank. Mrs. Forbes made a withdrawal day before yesterday. $10,000.
The lieutenant was as good as his word. In 5 minutes, he pulled his squad car up in front of the drugstore, and I got in.
Oh, you want to wait for Timmy to pick up Phillips and then tail him?
Now, we know where they're going. Better if we get there ahead of time.
Right.
The drive was fast. We swung off the main road on the island and headed up the private one to the Forbes estate at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Halfway to the house, we spotted Mrs. Forbes walking along the road by the cliffs. We stopped. She looked startled as we got out. Hello, Mrs. Forbes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dollar.
You've met Lieutenant Parkhill.
Yes, hello, Lieutenant. I was just taking a walk.
To meet Roger Phillips.
I beg your pardon.
Oh, we know all about it, Mrs. Forbes.
All about what, Lieutenant?
Your husband's death. Who killed him? Why he was killed.
I'm afraid I don't understand. My husband was...
Roger Phillips will be along any minute. The man he paid to kill your husband will be with him. I think he intends to kill you.
This is the most ridiculous...
Mrs. Forbes. Roger Phillips left Cleveland owing a large gambling debt to a hoodlum named Timmy Collins. Last night you picked up Mr. Phillips and gave him $10,000, which he in turn gave to Collins.
And we think he made another deal with Timmy. After he married you, he could pay off his gambling debt with interest.
Might as well tell us about it, Mrs. Forbes. He doesn't care about you. You and Timmy are the only ones that can implicate him. And he's on his way here right now to see that you don't.
I don't believe you.
Well, then find out for yourself. We'll duck the car behind those trees and give you plenty of protection when he gets here. Find out for yourself.
Parkhill drove the car off the road behind the trees, stayed hidden, and waited for Phillips and Timmy. Mrs. Forbes stood quietly looking out to sea, her hands at her sides, bunched into small fists. She stood like that, not moving, even as the car came down the road, heading right for her. She turned and saw the car bearing down on her and picking up speed, and then she knew we weren't lying. But still, she didn't move, and the lieutenant and I went to work. The car was about 50 yards away when we stepped into the road. Timmy was driving and saw us the same instant Phillips did and tried to put on the brakes as we raised our guns.
What a mess.
Yeah. I'm sorry it worked out that way.
He was going to kill me, wasn't he?
He sure was. You want to tell us about it?
Oh, yes. It doesn't make much difference now, does it?
No, I'm afraid it doesn't. Expense account item 5, $25.88, car rental and gas. Expense account items 6 and 7, $93.75, hotel bill, train fare, and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total $148.48. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. The taste of fresh spearmint is cooling and delightful, and there's lots of it in every stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. It freshens your mouth, helps keep your throat moist, and sweetens your breath besides. You'll enjoy the good chewing, too, because Wrigley's Spearmint is so smooth and pleasant to chew on. There's nothing else quite like it. Next time you're at the store, stop at your friendly merchant's display of chewing gum and get a few packages of good-tasting Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Always keep some handy for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment. That's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Blake Edwards with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Larry Thor, Jack Moyles, Bob Griffin, Mary Jane Croft, and Jean Howell. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum every day. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, John Lund returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is the CBS Radio Network. Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
Nelson Price, Johnny.
Oh, yes. How are you, Mr. Price?
Fine. Got a job for you. You'll have to go to the West Indies.
The West Indies?
Near Haiti, St. Ledger. Mr. Claude Sheldon holds a big policy with us. We insure him, his wife, and his farm. They've had a lot of trouble. It's going to cost us a lot of money, and we think an investigation is necessary. Come on down to the office, and I'll give you as much as I've got, Johnny.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you John Lund in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For refreshing taste, plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. When your mouth and throat feel hot and dry, a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint gives you quick, long-lasting refreshment. The lively, full-bodied spearmint flavor cools your mouth and freshens your taste. The chewing itself helps keep your throat pleasantly moist. Best of all, you can chew and enjoy refreshing Wrigley's Spearmint Gum almost any time and any place. Keep a package handy right in your purse or pocket so you can chew a stick whenever you want it. For refreshing taste, plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Millions enjoy it, and you will, too.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office International Insurance and Bonding Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Voodoo matter. Expense account item 1, $206.40, plane fare and incidentals from New York to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, after receiving from you the necessary information concerning the insured, Claude Sheldon. After landing, I checked into the hotel and waited for Claude Sheldon as prearranged. I waited for about an hour. Come in.
Mr. Dollar?
That's right. Mr. Sheldon?
Yes.
I've been expecting you. Claude Sheldon pushed himself away from the door, grabbed a chair, and dropped into it. Took in long, deep breaths and smiled, a very slow, weak smile.
I would have been here sooner, but there's been more trouble.
More trouble, eh? Well, my company told me a little about it, but you better give me your own story.
Certainly. As you know, I am a farmer.
Yeah.
My place is near Saint-Léger. A number of other farms in the vicinity, all doing very well until several months ago. First it was fires. The cane fields burned. One by one the cattle became sick. Then some of the farmers grew ill and died.
Can I get you something?
Please. Some water, please.
Have you been to see a doctor?
I'm afraid a doctor can't help.
There you are.
Thank you.
Have you any idea what's wrong with you?
Yes and no. My Christian religion fights it, but my life on Haiti has taught me deep respect for it.
Respect for what, Mr. Sheldon?
Voodoo, Mr. Dollar. Oh, I know just what you're thinking. But a doctor in Haiti has examined me and my wife and the others. He can find nothing wrong.
Voodoo, Mr. Sheldon?
I don't expect you to understand. It's hard for me. Perhaps there is something else. I hope you can find out.
Well, I'm afraid I can't buy the voodoo theory, Mr. Sheldon.
There's one thing. Immediately after my wife and I became ill, I received an offer from my farm. A very low offer from a Saint-Léger banker. I investigated and found it had been made in the interests of one Arthur Cotswold.
Arthur Cotswold?
Haiti's biggest planter. Extremely wealthy.
Even after the sick cattle and the fires and everything?
Yes. That's why I became suspicious. The other farmers received similar offers.
More water?
Perhaps I don't think I... Mr. Dollar.
Mr. Sheldon. I called the hotel desk for a doctor, but by the time he'd gotten Sheldon to the hospital, the patient was dead. The authorities were called in, and I was questioned. A preliminary examination was made on the dead man, but the cause of death remained a mystery. So an autopsy was ordered. I told the chief of police to forward the report to me as Saint Leger and left for the Sheldon farm. Expense account item 2, $5 American for a beaten-up taxi to take me 10 miles into the country. A crowd of natives was standing in front of the Sheldon house as we drove up. I didn't know what it was. No one said a word. But something was wrong. I could feel it. I walked through the crowd and up to the house and stopped cold as the door opened.
Who are you?
I'd never seen anything like him. A native who was a good 7 feet tall and must have weighed at least 300.
Me, Bimba. Who are you?
Me, I'm Johnny Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator.
You from United States?
Yeah. I'm supposed to investigate the trouble here.
Me know. Master Sheldon tell me.
I saw Master Sheldon about an hour ago.
He dead.
How do you know he died?
You come in house.
All right. What are all those people doing out there?
They're friends. Madame, she died too.
Bimba led the way into the bedroom, where Mrs. Sheldon lay on the bed, covered with a fresh white sheet, her eyes closed in death, her face drawn and tired. Bimba told me that she died about an hour before, and a cold chill ran up my back. I remembered her husband lying on the floor of my hotel room about an hour before.
Bad voodoo.
Is that why the cattle are sick and the fields burned?
We, bad voodoo.
Mr. Sheldon thought a man named Cotswold might have something to do with it.
Mr. Cotswold, big man. Very powerful.
What are those drums?
For Madame and Master. The voodoo. Good voodoo. Give blessing for spirit. For Madame and Master.
I see. I want to talk to the police in Saint Leger. Who do I see?
Me take you.
Right then, I inherited Bimba, and if there was going to be any trouble, the giant servant would certainly help to make up for any lack on my part. The first thing I wanted to do was to contact the authorities in Saint Leger, and Bimba told me my man was Inspector Georges. Bimba saddled up 2 horses from the barn, and together we rode back to Saint Leger. Bimba pointed out the inspector's office and waited in front while I went in.
Oui, Monsieur Dollar. The Sheldons were a very fine family. I knew them very well.
How did everybody know they were dead?
On Haiti, things of such nature are never a secret. The natives know.
Voodoo?
Being a stranger to Haiti, Monsieur Dollar, I expect you to be a skeptic.
But you're not?
Let us say I've been in Haiti too long to be one, huh?
You know a man named Cotswold?
I would suggest you forget Monsieur Cotswold.
Why?
Monsieur Cotswold is a very prominent man.
Yes, so I've heard.
He is the largest plantation owner in the West Indies, a self-made man with a considerable temper.
I'll mention it in my report to my office.
Eh bien, as you wish. But Monsieur Cotswold is looked upon by the people of Saint Leger with a great deal of respect. It is my opinion that you should avoid him. First, because I am certain he will not be in sympathy with your motives, and second, because the opposition you will encounter will be far-reaching and much too difficult for you to handle.
What if I come up with something incriminating?
Oh, for your sake, I hope you do not.
What do you do here in Saint Leger, Inspector?
I am the law, Monsieur Dollar.
But you wouldn't like it if this Cotswold were guilty of breaching that law?
If Monsieur Cotswold has broken the law, it would certainly be my duty to arrest him. But I am not considering the arrest, nor the necessary steps that would have to be taken to prove the guilt. Dangerous steps, Monsieur Dollar. One might trip on those steps.
And break his neck.
For 10 years I have been the law. If tomorrow Cotswold decided it was time for me to relinquish my position, I should probably retire.
So you prefer the middle of the road, huh?
It is much easier to see what is ahead.
You can always get run down from behind.
I do as much as I can to prevent that possibility. No, again, my suggestion that you forget Monsieur Cotswold.
I left the philosophical inspector and went back to Bimba, still sitting outside on his horse. Every time I looked at him, it was like a little kid spotting the Empire State Building for the first time. He smiled a mouthful of white teeth and leaned over to give me a hand up. He caught me by the wrist and lifted me into my saddle as though he was hoisting a small bundle of laundry.
The inspector. He say forget Mr. Cotswold.
What? Bimba.
Oui, monsieur.
Oh, forget it. What do you think I should do?
Me think you do what you want.
And you know what I want.
Oui. You want to go see Mr. Cotswold.
The inspector says I shouldn't.
You go anyway.
You think it's a mistake?
If you're afraid. But you're not. You're not strong like Bimba, but you're a good fighter.
I don't like to fight, Bimba.
Bimba know that. We go see Mr. Cotswold.
We swung our horses around, and Bimba led the way up a long, narrow road, surrounded on both sides by sugarcane fields. Somewhere, from not too far away, I heard the drums start again. Bimba straightened in his saddle and looked off to the north. He began moving his shoulders, slowly keeping time to the steady rhythm of the drums. Then he began to sing softly. What does that mean, Bimba?
It mean in your language, it is our Papa who passes.
Papa?
Papa Damballa, the great source.
Voodoo.
Oui. I later must leave you. Today, Wednesday, is the day of Papa Damballa.
He turned back to the north and continued his little chant until we reached the beginning of a long, high fence running along next to the narrow road. Bimba leaned down and swung open a big gate. Then we rode up the path that led through the Cotswold property until we reached the house. Sitting back between two huge trees was the Cotswold mansion. Bimba stayed on his horse, and I climbed down and walked to the front door.
Mr. Dollar, watch out for Mr. Jocelyn. He guard Mr. Cotswold.
Thanks.
What do you want?
I'd like to see Mr. Cotswold.
You do, huh? What are you doing here, Bimba?
I wait for Monsieur.
Found himself a new governor, huh? You must be that Dollar fella.
I must be.
Well, come in. Mr. Cotswold's been expecting you.
Jocelyn wasn't a very small man himself. Looked as though he was capable of handling just about any situation that might come up. He led the way into a large paneled study, and I met Arthur Cotswold. The drums had stopped.
I know why you're here, Mr. Dollar.
Well, then that should make it a lot easier for both of us.
For some reason, the farmers are suspicious. Their fear is divided between me and Voodoo. Sheldon convinced some that I might be responsible.
And of course you're not.
Of course.
Sheldon thought you might want to get control of the other farms in Saint Leger.
I simply tried to help them. With their cattle sick and their crops gone, I had my banker make them an offer.
What would you want with sick cattle?
I could use the land.
You think the cattle will get better and the crops won't fail if you control the land?
I intend to do away with the sick cattle. I have no use for the crops.
Have any of your cattle been affected?
None.
That's pretty strange.
Haiti is a strange land. And on this point, I would most certainly give you advice. Go home, Mr. Dollar. Leave well enough alone.
Well enough is pretty bad, the way I see it, Mr. Cotswold. And I'll leave after I've gotten a few answers.
Mr. Dollar, I am not a patient man. I've gone out of my way to give you some healthy advice. Heed it. For your sake.
I won't forget it for a minute.
You persist in this investigation?
I get paid to persist, Mr. Cotswold.
Friends, you know Wrigley's Spearmint Gum is a delicious treat that millions enjoy all year round. It's good to chew almost any time and any place. In warm weather, you'll enjoy especially the refreshment that Wrigley's Spearmint Gum gives you. When your mouth feels hot and dry, or when you're feeling warm and tired, chewing Wrigley's Spearmint gives you a pleasant little lift. It cools your mouth, moistens your throat, and refreshes your taste. Besides, chewing on a good, smooth piece of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum seems to add enjoyment to whatever else you're doing. So enjoy it at home, at work, wherever you are. And remember, Wrigley's Spearmint Gum is a swell treat to take along on picnics. Get plenty for everybody. That's Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
I left Arthur Cotswold, picked up Bimba, and he led me back to town. On the way, I got an idea. When we arrived in town, I sent Bimba back to the Sheldon farm. Then I went in to talk to Inspector George. The inspector had received a wire from the authorities in Port-au-Prince concerning the autopsy on Sheldon.
I had no idea the authorities in Port-au-Prince were interested in this affair.
May I see that?
Oh, mais certainement.
Wow. Here's something pretty interesting, Inspector. Mr. Sheldon died of a disease known as brucellosis, commonly known in cattle as Bang's disease.
I read the account.
Ever heard of brucellosis, Inspector?
I'm not a medical man, Monsieur Dollar.
Undulant fever. Sheldon and his wife probably caught it from their sick cattle.
But, yeah, then you have solved the mystery.
No, not quite. I want to find out why all the cattle belonging to the small farmers got sick and not the ones belonging to Mr. Cotswold.
What do you intend to do?
I think those cattle were infected and the cane fields burned deliberately. If the cattle were infected, there might be some of the brucellosis still around, and I'm going to find it. And I think you'd better issue a search warrant and come with me.
No, Monsieur Dollar. The middle of the road, remember?
I think you'd better start modifying your policy, Inspector. Unless you want me to get in touch with Port-au-Prince and ask that you be held as a material witness in a murder case.
I will issue the warrant.
I kind of thought you would.
I will issue it, but you certainly don't think it will be able enough to get you into that house.
No, but it'll make it legal. I sent Bimba back to collect some of his friends. They're going to help us get into that house, Inspector.
Oh, no, I will take no part in violence.
They won't even be with us. It'll be easy to search the Cotswold place if Cotswold was out fighting a fire.
A fire?
Oh, just a harmless fire. But far enough away so that Cotswold will think it's his cane fields.
Well, I don't agree with such methods, Monsieur Dollar, but as long as it's a harmless fire, I will issue the warrant.
Well, welcome back to the gutter, Inspector. The view isn't much, but you can't miss where you're going. When we reached the Sheldon farm, we saw a crowd of natives standing out in front. Again, something was wrong. We piled out, pushed our way through the crowd, and inside the house we found what it was. Lying in the middle of the room was Bimba. He was almost dead when I knelt beside him.
I talked to friends. They light fire for you.
Thanks.
Now I go to Baron Samter. Dambalo way to take me.
He has been stabbed?
Yeah. Got him from behind. Never would have faced him.
You stay. You see, wait till Lena tete your mort.
See what?
It's a ritual. It means taking the spirit from the head of the dead. He wants you to see it.
You stay. You believe voodoo.
All right, Bimba. I'll stay.
You see. Believe.
Bimba.
No. He is dead.
The next few hours I'll never forget. The natives came into the house and placed Bimba on a bench. Then the ceremony began. They carried live pigeons, olive oil, 30 pieces of fat pine wood, a pair of chickens, and some coarse cornmeal. They covered Bimba's body with a saddle blanket, killed the chickens, roasted the cornmeal, and put it in a large white plate. The pine wood slivers were lighted and held like candles. Then a man they called Donet took the white plate in one hand and the pot with the chicken in the other and approached the fire, chanting a strange dirge. Then, as Donet finished the last line of the chant, the body of Bimba sat straight up with straining eyes, bowed its head, and fell back. The inspector and I drove over to Cotswold's house and waited while the moon climbed up over the clouds and the drums in the distance tangled my nerves into knots. After an hour of waiting, a dull glow to the south started the expected commotion in the Cotswold household, and we climbed out of the car.
Fire, Mr. Cotswold! They're coming for you! Get the servants! Get the servants! Get every man out there to fight that fire! Hey!
It worked. Yeah. Give them a few minutes and we'll go into the house. Now. The inspector and I took the Cotswold house apart like a well-trained wrecking crew and came up with exactly nothing.
Well, Monsieur Dollar?
Isn't there a barn out back?
Oui.
Then let's go. The drums were louder now, and the dull glow of the fire had nearly vanished. The inspector took one end of the barn, and I took the other. We worked toward each other. And just about the time I was ready to give the whole thing up...
Monsieur Dollar.
You find something?
This.
Huh. A hypodermic for cattle. That's not enough.
And this, I found it under that box.
A bottle. Might not be anything.
But we could take it back to town and have it analyzed.
Well, that's about all we can do. This is the only thing we've got. Let's go.
I'm afraid not. Stand right where you are.
Hello, Mr. Cotswold. You know the inspector, don't you?
For a number of years. I must say I didn't expect this of him.
I have a search warrant, Monsieur Cotswold.
How very interesting. See if they have any weapons, Jocelyn. Right?
I assure you we are well within our rights. This warrant is...
Shut up and raise your hands.
Better do as he says.
A commendable suggestion, Mr. Dollar. But I'm afraid you've learned prudence a little too late.
I never argue with a gun.
They both got guns, Mr. Cotswold.
You're making a serious mistake.
I'm afraid the mistake is yours, and Mr. Dollar's, Inspector. Get the bottle and the hypodermic.
Yes, sir.
Is that the stuff you've been infecting the cattle with?
It is. You see, you really should have taken my advice and returned to the States. And I'm surprised at you, Inspector. I really thought you were more sensible.
Sometimes a man finds his pride and does the best thing.
And this is the best thing.
Perhaps it sounds foolish, but I think it is.
You know, of course, that I cannot allow either of you to live.
Tell me something. Who killed Bimba?
I think Jocelyn can answer that. But enough conversation. I'll leave the details in your hands.
Yes, sir.
Goodbye, gentlemen.
All right, start walking.
Jocelyn, you won't...
Shut up. Now do what I tell you and start walking.
Huh? The drums have stopped.
Just keep moving right out the gate.
What about the drums? What does it mean?
I don't know.
Mr. Cotswold! All right, both of you, start running for that house. Go on.
We ran into the house with Jocelyn right behind us. He ordered us to go ahead of him and into the dark study. And that's where we found Cotswold, stretched out on the floor, his dead eyes staring up at us, his mouth open in a soundless scream. His neck had been broken.
Ah, mon Dieu.
Who's here?
Monsieur Dollar.
Who is it? Who's in this room? No! No! Get away from me, you're dead!
You won't believe it, and to this day I'm still not sure. But there in the darkness was a huge man, and he looked exactly like Bimba. Jocelyn shot him 6 times, and he kept right on coming. Then he grabbed Jocelyn and crushed him like an eggshell. By the time we'd collected our wits, the giant had disappeared through the door and into the night.
Monsieur Dollar.
I think I'll sit down.
Was it Bimba?
I don't know. I don't want to know anything. I just want to get on the first plane back to the States and relax for a week in a tub of hot mud. Well, there it is. It certainly looked like Bimba. If you're inclined to believe in voodoo, perhaps it was. I talked to some of the natives before I left, and it didn't seem unusual to them. Cotswold was a bad man, and Bimba had come back from the dead to avenge his people. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling it to you just the way I saw it. Or am I? Well, anyway, it's the inspector's problem. Expense account items 3 and 4, $250. Hotel bill, plane fare, and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total, $461.40. If you want any more information, you can contact me at the Greenbrier Rest Home. I'll be the 3rd mud pie from the left. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. The taste of fresh spearmint is cooling and delightful, and there's lots of it in every stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. It freshens your mouth, helps keep your throat moist, and sweetens your breath besides. You'll enjoy the good chewing, too, because Wrigley's Spearmint is so smooth and pleasant to chew on. There's nothing else quite like it. Next time you're at the store, stop at your friendly merchant's display of chewing gum and get a few packages of good-tasting Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Always keep some handy for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment. That's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Blake Edwards with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in today's cast were Tudor Owen, Parley Bear, Roy Glenn, Ben Wright, Bill Conrad, and Jester Hairston. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum every day. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, John Lund returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is the CBS Radio Network.
WBBM-FM, Chicago.
Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
Philip Martin, Johnny.
Oh, yeah. How are you, Mr. Martin?
Fine. Got an assignment for you.
Something interesting?
Well, I think you'll like it. Our company insures a Miss Nancy Shaw.
That's a familiar name.
If you go to the movies, it should be.
Oh, that Nancy Shaw.
Mm-hmm. She was robbed of $100,000 in jewels. Think you can handle it?
Well, I can try. Say, for an assignment like this, I might even consider waiving my expense account.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I sure am. I'll see you at the office.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you John Lund and another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. When your mouth and throat feel hot and dry, a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint gives you quick, long-lasting refreshment. The lively, full-bodied spearmint flavor cools your mouth and freshens your taste. The chewing itself helps keep your throat pleasantly moist. Best of all, you can chew and enjoy refreshing Wrigley's Spearmint Gum almost any time and any place. Keep a package handy right in your purse or pocket so you can chew a stick whenever you want it. For refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Millions enjoy it, and you will too.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Columbia All Risk Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Nancy Shaw matter. Expense account item 1, $193.80, plane fare and incidentals between Hartford and Los Angeles. I arrived at the International Airport at 11 a.m., hired a car, and drove directly to Santa Monica, where I registered at a hotel. Shortly after that, I drove to the Santa Monica police station and introduced myself to Sergeant James Dodd.
Oh, I've been expecting you. Your company sent a teletype.
I understand this isn't the first of this type of robbery.
No, been 3 others. Same M.O. Always knows the setup of the house, goes directly to whatever he or she is after.
Why, you think it might be a woman?
But you never know. Each time it's been wealthy families, twice people in the picture business. Here's a list of the articles stolen.
Quite a list. Any of the stuff shown up yet?
Not yet, but it will.
Miss Shaw was robbed night before last.
Sunday, maid's night out. Each one's been like that. Always the maid's night off. Always the people are out to dinner or something. Whoever it is, very well informed.
I've got to run out and talk with Miss Shaw.
Nice girl. You'll like her. Malibu, number 915. Straight out the highway, turn in the gates at the Colony. I'd better call and tell her you're coming down, or you'll never get past the patrol.
Patrol?
Yeah, the association that protects the homes in the Colony. They check everybody that comes in the gates.
What about the thief, then?
Well, I think he parked on the highway down from the Colony, walked down to the beach, and busted in the Shaw place from the back way.
Well, thank you, Sergeant.
Sure. Anything else? Happy to help out.
Took me about half an hour to reach the Colony at Malibu, where the patrol at the gate stopped me. Evidently, Miss Shaw had informed them of my coming because they passed me through. I drove slowly down a narrow street fronted on one side by beautiful homes that faced a long white strip of beach. I was met at the door of number 915 by a maid who showed me through the attractively furnished home to a glassed-in cabana overlooking the ocean. Nancy Shaw, one of the biggest stars at the box office, rose to greet me. She was wearing a white sunsuit, and as she walked toward me, I had the sensation my hair had caught on fire.
Mr. Dollar?
Yeah. How do you do, Miss Shaw?
Sergeant Dodd called, said you were coming down.
I just left him.
Nice cup. Sit down. Make yourself comfortable.
I'll try.
Something wrong?
It's a little warm.
How about a drink?
Fine.
Bernice? What'll it be?
Anything with a thermostat in it.
Gin and tonic?
That'll do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Bernice, bring Mr. Dollar a gin and tonic, and I'll have the same.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a wonderful house.
Thank you. I wouldn't live anywhere else.
But isn't it quite a drive to the studio?
Oh, well, when I'm working, I'm generally up around 6. Hardly any traffic. I get there in 25 minutes. Cigarette?
No, thanks.
Tell me about your work, Mr. Dollar.
Well, there's not much to tell. I'm a freelance investigator. Insurance company's got a job, they call me, and
you investigate.
that's about it.
Like your work?
Well, it has its compensations.
For instance?
Well, for instance, Nancy Shaw in a sunsuit.
Well, thank you.
It says on your insurance report that you've never been married.
Is that so unusual?
In your case, I'd say it was.
I've come close.
What changed your mind?
Men?
Sorry I mentioned it.
Oh, I'm not. I think men are wonderful.
But marriage isn't?
Under the right circumstances, it's great. You married, Mr. Dollar?
Uh-uh.
Why not?
Let's talk about the jewels that were stolen, huh?
All right. Have the police found out anything?
No, not much.
Miss Shaw?
Oh, yes, Bernice?
Mr. Asher just called. Said he was on his way down.
Oh, thank you. Tell the gate man to let him in, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The patrol at the gate isn't generally this cautious, but since the robbery, they're checking everyone.
According to my report, you were robbed of a ruby pin, 2 diamond rings, a pearl choker, 4 gold bracelets, 2 diamond watches, 3... Well, here's the list. Is it correct?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
The items were stolen night before last.
Yes. Mr. Dollar,
Yeah?
do you have to ask me a lot of questions?
Well, it's the usual procedure. If you're expecting company or something, I can come back some other time.
No. I just thought, as long as we've got to spend some time together, we might as well be comfortable. We can go out and sit on the beach.
Well, that sounds fine, but,
Don't you like the beach?
Oh, I love it, but I'm not exactly dressed.
Oh, there's plenty of trunks in the guest house. Should be some your size.
I met her on the beach. She'd changed from the sunsuit to a red bathing suit. She was stretched out in the sand, her face turned up to the sun, and her blonde hair spread out around her shoulders.
Hi.
Hi.
Here. Spread out this towel. Get yourself some sun.
Okay.
You're a little white.
More of a pearl gray, I'd say.
Trunks look fine.
I hunted high and low for a pail and a shovel.
Gonna dig in the sand?
I don't think I've been out on the beach like this since I was 8. I had a pail and shovel then. Seemed only fitting and proper.
Might be fun at that.
Oh, sure. Didn't you used to build castles with moats around them? Let the ocean come in and fill them up?
No, I didn't get to the beach much before I came to California. Then I was a little old for building castles.
Oh, you're never too old to build castles. But then there's always some guy who comes along, you know, running as though he was in training for a 4-minute mile. Never sees your castle and plump.
Runs right over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had it happen.
But you said you never built castles.
Not in the sand. But I've built them. And they've got stepped on.
Can always build another.
I did. Another. And another.
And now you're living in one. A big, beautiful one. Right on the beach.
Mm-hmm. What's your castle look like, Mr. Dollar?
Oh, I design all kinds. Sometime when I've got a pail and a shovel, I'll show you. And the name is Johnny.
All right, Johnny. Sometime you build me a castle.
Sure. Hey, you've got a visitor.
Huh?
Guy just came out of your house. He's headed this way.
Tall, dark, looks like an ad for strength and health.
Exactly.
Dave Asher.
Old friend?
Nope. We're engaged.
Oh.
Hello, Dave.
Didn't Bernice tell you I was coming down?
Yes, she told me. This is Mr. Dollar.
How do you do?
This is Dave Asher, Mr. Dollar. He's happy to meet you.
Really?
Don't sulk, Dave. Tell Mr. Dollar you're happy to meet him.
Why?
Because it's too nice a day to put up with one of your moods.
Is this guy the reason you haven't been available for the last few days?
I only met Mr. Dollar an hour ago.
Then you won't miss him. Goodbye, Mr. Dollar.
Goodbye. Have a nice trip.
I don't think you get the point.
Oh, sure I do. You're unhappy, so you're leaving.
Mr. Dollar, maybe you don't know it, but Miss Shaw and I are engaged.
I know it.
Dave, for once in your life, try to act
I drove all the way down here to see you. I haven't seen you since Sunday night, and there's a few things I like to settle. In private. Now, maybe you get the point, Mr. Dollar. I'm not leaving. You are.
Oh, now, this is really too much.
No, wait a minute. Maybe I'd better
You
go.
stay right where you are, Johnny.
Oh. Oh, it's Johnny.
Yes, it's Johnny.
My family thought it up.
You're a pretty funny man, huh?
Now, you listen to me. You just go right back out to your car and drive yourself away from me.
I'm not leaving until he does.
I beg your pardon. You're leaving, and you're leaving right now. Now, turn around.
You're serious?
I was never more serious in my life. Now, get off the beach.
We're through.
Fine. Hi. I'm sorry, Johnny.
Cigarette?
Thanks. It's rather unpleasant.
You want to borrow my shoulder?
Oh, it's been coming to this for a long time. I don't know why I didn't stop seeing him sooner, except that I really didn't know him for the first few months. You know, party manners, impress the lady with a well-oiled line. I guess I was being as insincere as he was. This is a town for insincerity, Johnny. It's like the first house I bought. Beautiful. Lived in it for 6 months before I discovered the termites had eaten away half the foundation.
Huh. Who is he?
Well, just a rich young man, spoiled disposition.
He was with you the night you were robbed?
Yes. We had a big fight. He took me home. It was over then. I knew it. And I have to admit I was a little dewy-eyed over having made one more mistake. And when I discovered the jewelry was missing, it was just too much. I must have cried for 2 whole hours. I have to go to a party tonight, Johnny. Dave and I were invited. What'll I do?
Have a headache?
Oh, that's too easy. He'll be there with someone. What are you doing tonight, Johnny?
No plans.
Will you take me to the party?
Gonna show him you don't care, huh?
I don't want to show him anything. I'd like to show myself.
I play a lousy second fiddle.
You don't have to play anything. Just take me to the party. When you get bored, say goodnight.
Friends, no matter what kind of work you do, it's a real help to chew delicious Wrigley Spearmint Gum right while you're working. When you're warm or tired, for instance, the lively, full-bodied spearmint flavor is really refreshing. It helps keep your mouth and throat feeling cool and moist. Chewing on that smooth, good-tasting piece of Wrigley Spearmint makes the time pass more pleasantly, too. It seems to make your work go smoother and easier. Keep a package or two of Wrigley Spearmint Chewing Gum handy all the time. Enjoy chewing Wrigley Spearmint while you're working and at other times. That's Wrigley Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
I guess it wasn't a very big party by Hollywood standards, but it frightened me. About 150 guests, producers, stars, and some odds and ends that always show up at a party like that. Dave Asher was there, guzzling champagne as though the Texas drought had hit Beverly Hills. About midnight, the party was under full steam, and Nancy led me outside, where a long walk stretched out over half an acre of lawns and wound around a big lighted swimming pool.
Having fun?
Well, I'm a little out of my element.
I thought being together might make the difference.
Being with you is the nicest thing that's happened in a long, long time. But I'd rather be sitting on the beach.
Yes, that would be nice. Johnny?
Hmm?
Kiss me.
Well, what was that for?
Does it have to be for something?
Well, doesn't it?
I guess so. I wanted you to kiss me. I thought it might be nice. It was.
Let's get out of here.
All right.
Well.
Hello, Dave.
Goodbye, Dave.
Going someplace?
Yes, we were.
Why don't you be a good
I want
boy
to
and...
talk to you, funny man.
Dave, please.
Let him get it off his chest.
Yeah, it's good for one to get something off one's chest, right?
If you say so.
I do. I say so.
Johnny?
It's all right.
Sure, Nancy, it's all right. Funny man can handle himself. Can't you, funny man?
Look, Sonny, whatever it is you've got to say it and get out of my way.
I don't like you.
Great. I'd hate to be your first friend.
And I don't care much for your date, the little glamour gal. Big movie star, Miss Nancy Shaw.
Be careful.
Yeah?
Please, Johnny.
Okay. Get out of my way, Mr. Asher.
I don't think so.
Well, then it's about time you got your first lesson. Occasionally, you're bound to run into guys like me.
And what do I learn?
To wish you hadn't. Can he swim?
Like a fish.
Let's go sit on the beach.
Let's.
We left while young Asher was pulling himself out of the pool and drove back to the beach. Turned out to be a lovely evening after all. We sat on the beach and talked about things until we couldn't think of anything else to say. I left as the sun was rising behind the Malibu hills and drove back to the hotel and crawled into bed. I'd promised to see Nancy for dinner, so I set the alarm and fell asleep. It was about 4 in the afternoon when the phone rang. Johnny Dollar.
This is Sergeant Dodd.
Oh, how are you? I was just catching a little snooze.
You have a big night last night?
Well, I don't know. Nothing special. Why?
You made the papers, front page.
Huh?
Yeah. Says here you knocked some young socialite into a swimming pool.
Oh, I better get up. Anything new on the case?
No, I thought maybe you might have something. What do you know about this guy you belted last night?
He didn't drown, did he?
No, but we've been doing some checking on him.
Any particular reason?
Well, we're checking everyone that's even remotely connected with Miss Shaw or any of the others who've been robbed.
Well, all I know is that he used to be engaged to Miss Shaw. His name is Asher. Dave Asher. And, oh, yeah, she said he's got a lot of money.
Oil wells.
Yeah.
Not a one.
What do you mean?
I mean, he looks like a phony. Nobody's ever heard of him. He's certainly not in oil.
Does he have money?
Yeah, but not as much as he pretends. 3 months ago, he didn't even have a bank account, and he was living in a $7 a week room.
Huh.
Just thought you might be able to tell me something more.
No, I can't. But I'll see what I can find out.
Okay. Give my regards to Miss Shaw.
I'll do that.
Seems like a real nice girl.
Yeah. A half hour later, I pulled up to the beach house, got out, went down the steps to the front door, and rang the bell. It had been a long time since I'd felt like that. I was really looking forward to seeing her again.
Oh, Miss Shaw isn't in, Mr. Dollars.
Well, she's expecting me.
Miss Shaw isn't seeing anyone for the next few days. She told me to tell you she was sorry.
Now, wait a minute.
Please, Mr. Dollars.
What's the matter with you? What's wrong?
There's nothing wrong, sir. Please, let me close the door.
Your apron's torn. You've been crying. What's happened, Bernice?
Nothing.
Then I'll find out for myself. Nancy! 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 Nancy, are you in there?
Johnny,
Open the door.
please, go away. I can't see you.
What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong. I'll call you.
Open the door.
Oh, please, John.
Nancy!
Go away.
Are you going to open the door or do I break it in?
Johnny, I didn't want to see you. I didn't want any more trouble.
Honey, who did it?
Oh, please. Please don't do anything. Don't say anything about it, please. The publicity would be awful.
Come on. Sit down.
Oh.
Have you seen a doctor?
No. Bernice called him. He should be here any minute. He won't say anything.
Who did it?
Oh, Johnny, please forget it.
Asher.
Please, please.
All right. Come on. You stretch out.
Oh.
You got any sleeping pills or anything?
It's in the cabinet.
Here, take a couple. Come on. Now, you just relax till the doctor gets here. You'll be all right.
All right.
You just take it easy. Okay?
Okay. Is she all right, Mr. Dollars?
Who beat her up? Was it Mr. Asher?
Yes. Yes, he got here about an hour ago. I tried to stop and he hit me. He was crazy. He kept hitting her. I found this on the floor after he left.
Huh. Quite a diamond.
Yes, sir.
Hard cut. About 2 carats.
He yelled, screamed like he was crazy. He was just terrible. Is she all right?
Yeah. I want to use the phone.
Yes, sir. I didn't want to keep you out, Mr. Dallas. But Miss Shaw was scared you'd do something.
Somebody's got to do something, Bernice.
You going to call the police?
Yeah.
I guess you have to.
City Hall.
Sergeant Dodd, please.
Thank you.
Robbery, Sergeant Dodd.
This is Johnny Dollar.
Oh, yeah.
You got that list of stolen goods handy?
Oh, right in front of me. Why?
Check it and see if there's a 2-carat diamond. Oval, pretty deep.
Wait a minute.
Bernice,
Yes, sir.
you know those people that have been robbed in the last 3 months?
Yes, sir. Miss Shaw and me was just talking about it this morning.
Were they all friends of Miss Shaw's?
Yes, sir. Miss Shaw was saying how funny
Johnny?
it was.
Wait a minute, Bernice. Yeah, Sergeant?
There's no single stone on the list, but there's a ring, platinum setting with 2 small rubies, square cut on the side, and a 2-carat diamond that fits the description. Oval, deep.
Yeah. Look, Dodd. Dave Asher just beat up Miss Shaw. She's a mess. Doctor's on his way over now. Wait a minute. Bernice, what were you going to say? You said that Miss Shaw...
She said how funny it was that all them people who were robbed, that she was over there to their house just before it happened.
Dodd.
Yeah?
I think Asher's our boy. I think he went to those houses with Miss Shaw and cased them good. Found out what night the maid was off and anything else that might happen.
Okay, but how about Miss Shaw's house? Asher was with her the night of the robbery.
Then he's working with someone. He gets the layout, someone else does the job.
Well, we can certainly run over and pick him up. Get him on an assault charge anyway.
Yeah. I want to see Mr. Asher again. Sergeant Dodd gave me Asher's address in Santa Monica Canyon and said he'd meet me there. I looked in on Nancy, who was getting drowsy. Then I told Bernice I'd check back to see what the doctor's report would be, and then left for Asher's place.
Yeah?
Get up. I said get up!
Let me go.
You're out of shape, Dave. You should train on men for a while.
You broke my nose.
You're lucky. Now, where did you get this ring? Where did you get it?
I bought it.
Where?
From a guy.
What guy?
Just a guy. I don't know him. He wanted to sell it, and I bought it. Is there anything the matter with that?
Yeah, you're lying. Now, listen to me. I want some answers. First, where did you get this ring?
I told you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You've been going to parties with Miss Shaw, casing the house, and someone else has been doing the jobs. Right? Okay.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Who are you working with?
Name's Fisher. Stanley Fisher.
Where is he?
He lives at the Shelton Hotel on Ocean Drive.
Where's the loot?
He's got it.
Why did you beat up Miss Shaw?
I don't know. I just got mad. I don't know why I did it. Don't you ever do anything and you don't know why?
Oh, yeah, sure. But this isn't one of those times.
Well, guess I should have knocked.
Oh, hello, Sergeant. He's your man, all right.
I heard.
Works with some guy named Stanley Fisher.
Yeah. We know him. Small-time thief. I'll have him picked up.
I'm sorry about the mess. Asher and I had a slight difference of opinion.
Forget it. Why don't you get back to the beach and see how Miss Shaw's doing? I'll take care of things here.
Thanks. Miss Shaw was fine. Took her a few days to get up and around, so naturally I stayed in town until Dodd put the finishing touches on the case. Then I went down to the beach and gave her a full report.
And now you've got to leave.
I'm afraid so. I don't particularly want to.
I guess it's better.
Why?
I don't know. Do you?
Sure. So I can come back.
Will you?
The next time my expense account brings me to California.
I will personally rob every house in the neighborhood.
You do that. Well, I'm going to catch a plane.
Johnny? Come here.
Nancy.
Huh?
Are you sure my hair isn't on fire? Well, that was that. Expense account item 2, $115. Hotel bill and incidentals. Items 3 and 4, $295.85. Car rental, plane fare, and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total, $604.65. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. The taste of fresh spearmint is cooling and delightful, and there's lots of it in every stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. It freshens your mouth, helps keep your throat moist, and sweetens your breath besides. You'll enjoy the good chewing, too, because Wrigley's Spearmint is so smooth and pleasant to chew on. There's nothing else quite like it. Next time you're at the store, stop at your friendly merchant's display of chewing gum and get a few packages of good-tasting Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Always keep some handy for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment. That's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Blake Edwards with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Mary Jane Croft, Thelma Johnson, Peter Leeds, and Vic Perrin. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum every day. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, John Lund returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is the CBS Radio Network. Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
Donald Maynard, Johnny.
Oh, hello, Mr. Maynard. Haven't talked to you in a long time.
Want to go to work?
Sure. What is it?
We insure a Miss Isabel James, Tulsa, Oklahoma. She's been killed.
How?
Murdered. Like you to leave as soon as you can, Johnny.
Won't take me long. See you at your office in an hour, and you can fill me in on the details.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you John Lund in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. When your mouth and throat feel hot and dry, a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint gives you quick, long-lasting refreshment. The lively, full-bodied spearmint flavor cools your mouth and freshens your taste. The chewing itself helps keep your throat pleasantly moist. Best of all, you can chew and enjoy refreshing Wrigley's Spearmint Gum almost any time and any place. Keep a package handy right in your purse or pocket so you can chew a stick whenever you want it. For refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Millions enjoy it, and you will too.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, National Life and Casualty Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Isabel James matter. Expense account item 1, $103.65, plane fare and incidentals between Hartford and Tulsa, Oklahoma, after receiving from you the necessary information concerning the case. I arrived in Tulsa the next morning, registered at the hotel, and went directly to the police station where I introduced myself to Captain Clifford Kissig.
Yeah, got a teletype from your company. Said you'd be in this morning. Good trip?
Fine.
You're investigating the Isabel James murder.
That's right. I was hoping you could give me some help.
I'd sure like to, but it's got us stumped. We've had 3 others like this already.
3 others?
Yeah, all the same. Isabel James was the 4th. Looks like Tulsa's got a Jack the Ripper.
All with their throats cut?
Yeah, 4 killings in the last 3 weeks.
You're after a madman.
Yeah, pretty smart madman. Haven't got a lead.
Not a what?
Always picks a lonely spot, never a witness, never anyone who saw anything or heard anything.
What's he use, a knife?
The lab thinks it's a razor. Straight razor. Got the town a little jumpy.
I can understand.
But we'll get something. Sooner or later, the killer will make a slip, or somebody will tell us something.
What happens in the meantime?
We just gotta pray there ain't no more killing.
How far is Dawson from Tulsa?
Not very far. Going over to see the dead girl's uncle.
Yeah, he's the beneficiary.
Mm-hmm. I found the policy in her belongings. I was the one notified your company.
You know the uncle?
Had him come down and identify the body. How much does he get?
$10,000.
Well, he can use it. Just an old farmer.
Well, I'm going to run over and see him.
All right. How long are you going to be in town?
Well, I'm being paid to investigate a murder. I guess I'll be around until somebody catches a killer. Captain Kissig advised me where I could rent a car, and a half hour later I was driving a small coupe out of the Tulsa city limits, heading for Dawson. The dead girl's uncle, Morley Parrish, lived a few miles east of Dawson in an old rundown farmhouse that was in the middle of 6 or 8 acres of parched earth. He was a man in his late 50s, weather-worn and thin. He met me at the door with a look of suspicion.
What do you want?
Mr. Parrish?
Yes?
My name is Dollar. I represent the insurance company that covered your niece's life. I'd like to talk to you about it.
About what?
About your niece. Her death.
She's dead. What's there to talk about?
You're the beneficiary. You get $10,000 from the insurance company.
Come in. Sit down. I get, how much you say?
$10,000.
You want a drink?
Well, I don't...
I got a jug of whiskey. I've been saving it. You say your name's,
Dollar.
What company you work for?
National Life and Casualty.
I get $10,000.
That's right.
Yeah, have a swig. Oh, my, you swallowed wrong, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, well, give me that. Well, no wonder. I didn't shake it up.
Shake it up?
Why, sure. Gotta shake it to make it smooth.
You sure that didn't come with a fuse in it?
Emmett Willis made it himself. Brung it by last month. Here, you try it now.
Well, I really don't think I...
Oh, go ahead. You got a bad sample.
Okay.
You see how much smoother it is?
Yeah.
Well, you just got to shake it up. Now I'll have one. Yes. Oh, my. Yeah, well, that's right tasty.
Yeah. Let's talk about your niece, huh?
All right. Let's talk.
You know why anybody would want to kill her?
No, it's that fella that's been killing all them other girls, ain't it?
Yeah, I guess so. That's what the police say.
Well, it seems to me he don't care who he kills, just as long as it's a girl. Another swig?
No, thanks. Your niece left you when she was 16, didn't she?
Yeah, I'll take another. Yeah, 17, I think. She ran off to Tulsa.
You see her much after that?
Well, not much, maybe once, twice a year.
When was the last time you saw her?
The other day in the morgue.
No, I mean before that.
Oh, my. Well, that was about a month.
She didn't write or...
Oh, look, Mr. Police, they ask all them questions.
I know it.
You got to ask them all over again, huh?
If you want to get your $10,000.
Well, okay. No, she didn't write. She never wrote. At least in the last 5 or 6 years, she never wrote. When she first got to Tulsa, she used to write now and then. Last time I seen her, she didn't say nothing about what she was doing or who she was seeing or anything, so I can't very well help you find out who killed her. Come on, have a swig.
No, thanks. I'm in a rented car.
Yeah, suit yourself. But once I open a jug, it gets finished.
Then you better finish it.
Naturally, I will. Oh, man.
Delicious, huh?
Oh, you bet.
I left before he finished the demijohn. It was getting dark, and he stood on the porch, leaning against a post and waving goodbye between the last few swallows. Back in Tulsa, I went to the hotel, where I took a hot shower, then stretched out on the bed to relax for a few minutes before going out to dinner. I smoked a few cigarettes and had just about decided to have some food sent up to the room when the phone rang. Johnny Dollar.
This is Cliff.
Huh?
Captain Kissig.
Oh, hi. Got back from Dawson about 40 minutes ago.
What'd you think of the old boy?
Quite a character.
Thought if you weren't doing anything, you might like to drop down to the station.
You got something?
Yeah, just picked up a suspect. Might be our man.
What makes you think so?
He was following a girl. She spotted him and got worried. When he got too close, she began screaming, and he ran. She gave us a pretty good description, and about 15 minutes ago, a couple of the boys picked him up.
The girl identify him?
Yeah, said he was the one who followed her, all right.
Well, it seems to me you're going to need more than that.
Well, we might have it. When the boys searched him, they found a straight razor in his pocket. Coming down?
Right away.
His name's Story. S-T-O-R-E-Y. Alvin Story. He hasn't said anything interesting.
But you think he's it?
Yeah, I think so. Nothing definite except the razor and his actions, but I just got a hunch.
What's he say about the razor?
Not much. Admits it's his. Says he was just carrying it. In here.
You were just taking a walk. Yes, sir, that's right. I was just taking a walk.
And you weren't following the girl, huh?
I told you I wasn't. I told you I was just taking a walk. If the girl thought I was following her, well, I can't help that. I wasn't. I was just taking a walk, like I said in the first place. Hello, Captain.
Hello, Alvin.
Back with someone to relieve Sergeant Haddock?
I'm not tired, Alvin.
Well, you're gonna be if you keep on like this, because I've told you the truth, and I'll just keep right on telling it all night if you keep asking me.
Have a cigarette, Alvin?
I told you I don't smoke. Honest, Captain, this is just a waste of time. I've told you the truth, and you're just a waste of your time with all these questions.
We've got a lot of time.
Now, let's go through it again, Alvin. Where did you get the razor?
Well, I bought it.
Where?
At a hardware store. You can check it. I bought it at a hardware store about 3 weeks ago. I used it to shave with, not to kill anyone. Honestly, I didn't kill anyone. I'm not the one you want. I'm not that person that killed all those women.
We never said you were, Alvin.
But you think so, just because that girl thought I was following her.
Well, weren't you?
Well, no. I told you I was not following that girl.
You were on your way home.
Yes.
You told me before.
That I was on the way to a show. Yes. I wasn't on my way home. Keep asking me all these questions. I get confused. I made a mistake.
What show were you going to see?
Well...
What show?
Oh, no one in particular. I was just going downtown to see what was playing.
You were headed downtown?
Yes, to see what was playing at the shows.
The girl says you were following her.
Well, I don't care what the girl says. She's lying. I wasn't following her.
But you were walking behind her.
Yes, I might... Yes, I was probably walking behind her.
Well, she was going in the other direction from town.
Well, then I wasn't behind her. I tell you, I was going...
Police sergeant named Haddock kept working on the suspect, quietly, persistently. Alvin Story, a tall, frail-looking man dressed in blue jeans and a leather jacket, sat behind the table trying desperately to be calm and anticipate the sergeant's next question. After half an hour, the captain and I left and went upstairs to his office where he fixed coffee.
Cream and sugar?
Black will be fine.
Well, what do you think?
I don't know. He's a strange one.
Yeah.
If I had to pick types, I don't know. It's hard to tell about anybody in a police station. Maybe he was following the girl. She starts screaming her lungs out, and he panics. The law picks him up, finds a razor on him. Maybe he's not the killer at all. But he knows he looks guilty, so he gets good and scared. Guys act awful funny and make a lot of mistakes when they're scared.
He just carries a razor around with him.
Well, isn't it possible?
Oh, yeah. But I still think he's our killer.
Well, I have to admit I'm inclined to agree with you. But there's always a chance he's not. You never know.
Kissing. Yeah? Okay. Well, we know now.
Story?
Yeah. He just confessed.
Friends, no matter what kind of work you do, it's a real help to chew delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum right while you're working. When you're warm or tired, for instance, the lively, full-bodied spearmint flavor is really refreshing. It helps keep your mouth and throat feeling cool and moist. Chewing on that smooth, good-tasting piece of Wrigley's Spearmint makes the time pass more pleasantly, too. It seems to make your work go smoother and easier. Keep a package or two of Wrigley's Spearmint chewing gum handy all the time. Enjoy chewing Wrigley's Spearmint while you're working and at other times. That's Wrigley's Spearmint chewing gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Alvin Story still sat at the table in the dim, bare little room. He looked tired, but he looked relieved. A stenographer was set up at one end of the table, while Sergeant Haddock leaned against the wall and smoked a cigarette. Captain Kissig crossed to the table and sat on the edge of it, facing the suspect.
Can we get this thing over with, Captain? Can we finish it up and let me go lie down?
Well, the stenographer's ready. Tell us about it.
Well, what's there to tell? I killed them. I killed all of them. Isn't that enough to say? That's what they'll hang me for. Anything else I say won't make any difference.
Why'd you kill him, Alvin?
I don't know. You know something? I really don't know. I just wanted to. First one, I saw her and I just wanted to. I guess I thought about it before I saw her. Yes, I used to lie in bed and think about it. I used to dream about it, too. I used to wake up and feel like I'd really done it. Sick all over and scared. I felt so terrible. Like I feel now, kind of. Yeah. It's like a dream now. Right now, it's like a dream, but it isn't.
Tell us about the first one.
Do I have to?
It'll help.
Well, it's kind of hard to remember exactly. I bought the razor and I waited for her.
On Garvey Boulevard?
I guess so.
Try to remember.
Yeah, It was Garvey. It was late at night.
What night? The night of the 11th?
Maybe. I think so. I think it was Tuesday night.
That's right.
And I killed her.
You knew her?
No, not really. It's hard to explain.
Well, did you know any of the other 3 girls?
2.
No, with the last one, it makes 4 altogether.
No, 3.
Now, think about it a minute, Alvin. There were...
Only 3. I ought to know. 3 girls.
No, now try to remember, Alvin.
I don't have to try and remember anything. There were 3. Just 3. 1, 2, 3. I know. Why would I want to lie?
I'm not saying you're lying, Alvin.
I even know the names. I cut the pictures out of the paper.
Tell me the names then, Alvin.
Well, certainly. Mary Knapp, Virginia Vitello, and Thelma Greer. I know all of them. I kept a record.
What about Isabel James?
Who?
Isabel James?
Oh, yes. She was in the papers the other day.
That's right.
Somebody killed her like the others. I read about it. I thought it'd be blamed on me, but it didn't make any difference. 1 or 10, what difference would it make?
For a half hour, they questioned Alvin's story. Time and time again, he admitted the 3 killings, and time again, he denied any connection with the 4th, the murder of Isabel James. Expense account item 2, $4.95, breakfast for Captain Kissig and myself, after which I returned to the hotel and crawled into bed. A lie detector test would be given to Alvin sometime late in the afternoon, so that gave me at least 6 or 7 hours to catch up on my sleep. I left a call at the desk, turned over, and closed my eyes. Johnny Dollar.
3 o'clock, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, thanks.
And Mr. Parrish has been waiting in the lobby to see you.
Parrish?
Yes, sir. Mr. Morley Parrish. He's been waiting over an hour.
Okay. Send him up.
Yes, sir.
Come in, Mr. Parrish. Have a seat.
Thank you. I've been waiting downstairs for over an hour.
Oh, I'm sorry. But I was up all night. I told the desk not to disturb me until 3.
Oh, gee, that's all right. I know you city fellas don't like to get to bed much before the sun comes up. I didn't mind waiting.
I was with the police.
Oh?
I've been working with them on the death of your niece.
Oh, is that right? Well, that's the reason I come to Tulsa to see you. I was wondering when I was going to get the money.
Well...
See, I got a chance to get me a right smart section of land. Trading the place I got now, plus 8,000. It's a real good buy.
Oh? Well, Mr. Parrish, it might be some time before you get the money.
Oh, how come?
Oh, there's a routine that has to be followed. I have to finish my investigation.
You still investigating?
Oh, sure. You see, your niece's death is still unsolved.
Well, it's that fella that's killing all them other girls.
It certainly looks that way.
You mean you got to catch him before you can pay me?
No, but I've got to make sure that he's the one who killed your niece.
You think maybe he isn't?
Well, to tell you the truth, Mr. Parrish...
Well, she got killed just like all them other girls.
Not exactly.
Huh?
I said not exactly. You see, the razor that killed your niece and the razor that killed the other girls aren't the same.
Well, how do you know that?
The police laboratory report.
They can tell if it was a different razor? Oh, no. Come on, Mr. Dollar. Maybe I ain't the brightest
It's
fellow
a fact,
in the world.
Mr. Parrish. How do you think they knew it was a razor in the first place? Not just a very sharp knife. Oh, they can tell, all right.
Well, maybe the killer ain't using the same razor.
Yeah, we've considered that, but we can't tell. He hasn't killed again. Maybe he never will.
You mean I might never get my money?
Well, now, Mr. Parrish, it's not quite that bad. I want to see you get your money. You've certainly got it coming. But I can't honestly recommend payment to my company until the case is solved.
What do you mean until you catch the killer?
That, or until we're certain the same man that killed the others killed your niece.
Well, it seems to me you gotta catch him to prove that.
Yeah, unless he kills again, with the same razor he used on your niece. Then we can be pretty sure that he's changed razors.
Well, maybe he's got 2 different ones.
Maybe.
Well...
You have to go?
Yeah, I gotta be getting back. As long as I ain't going to get the money right away, there's no sense in hanging around.
Don't be discouraged, Mr. Parrish. Just as soon as I'm convinced the killers changed razors, you'll get your money.
Yeah, Dollar, we just gave Story the polygraph test. According to our experts, Story killed all the girls except Isabel James.
Look, Captain, Morley Parrish was just in my room. I gave him a cock and bull story about his niece being killed with a different razor.
A different razor?
I think maybe he did it for the insurance. Read all the stories in the paper about the killings and decided to kill his niece.
And then everybody just chalk it all up to Alvin's Story.
Right. Only I didn't tell him that Alvin Story had been arrested.
Explain about that different razor.
Parrish left here thinking he wasn't going to get the $10,000 until I was certain the same man killed his niece that killed the others. He thinks your police lab proved that Isabel James was killed with another razor. And he quickly came up with a solution that the killer had changed razors or had two of them.
So what?
I think he'll go out and prove it.
What? You mean you think
I think he's simple-minded enough to try and kill someone just to make it look like the killer has changed razors.
Well, I sure hope you're wrong.
Well, so do I, but it's the only way we could prove anything.
Where is he?
He just left.
But holy cow, if you're right and he's wandering around loose...
Relax. He'll go back to his farm in Dawson first.
What makes you think so?
He has to get the razor, doesn't he? 10 minutes later, Captain Kissig picked me up in his car, and we drove well over the speed limit getting to Dawson. Just west of old Morley's farm, we pulled off the road and turned off our lights.
Well, the house is dark. Where is he?
Still on his way from Tulsa. We got here pretty fast, Captain.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Come on. Let's walk down to the house.
He have a car?
I don't know, but I doubt it. I didn't see one the last time I was here.
Dollar?
Hmm?
What if you're wrong? What if you've guessed wrong? What if he did have the razor on him? Well?
That's a pretty good question. The night was warm, with a big red moon. We walked down to the old farmhouse while a coyote howled way off in the distance. We found a spot by the side of the house where we could see the road and still be hidden in the shadows. We waited for Morley Parrish to come and get his razor. About an hour later, the old man came walking down the road and went into the house. After a few moments, a light flared in the back room. We could hear him moving around, then the light went out.
Hold it.
Who's there? Who are you?
It's me, Mr. Parrish.
Mr. Dollar?
Yeah. This is Captain Kissig with me.
What do you want?
Just came down to see you.
Well, I got business. I got to be going.
In a minute.
There's a drink in the house, another jug behind the stove. Go on in and make yourself comfortable. I'll be right back.
Just a minute, Mr.
Well,
Parrish.
look, I got to hurry.
Where are you going?
I got business in Dawson.
You gonna walk?
Oh, sure, I always walk. I hitchhike if I get a lift.
We've got a car. We'll give you a lift.
No, I don't want to put you in no trouble.
No trouble.
Mr. Parrish, what did you pick up in the house?
Huh? What? Oh, nothing.
What have you got in your pocket?
Well, nothing. What do you want? You ain't got no right to do...
Do you own a straight razor, Mr. Parrish? You better give it to us, Mr. Parrish.
And be careful how you do it. I've got a gun pointed at you.
Well, you knew it all the time, huh?
I had a hunch.
Now, here you are.
Is this the one you killed your niece with?
Yeah.
You were going to kill somebody else?
Oh, there ain't no difference after the first one, and I sure could have used that money. Gee. Man, oh, man, that was a wonderful little farm, but, I just guess you can't beat them scientific police methods. I sure thought I had it all figured out, too. Gee, We gonna go now?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen to my farm? They'll sure hang me, and I ain't got no relatives
The
to take
state
care
will take care of it. Come on.
Mr. Dollar,
Hmm?
why don't you just sneak back later on, get that jug? There's no sense in wasting it on some stranger who wouldn't appreciate it.
We took old Morley Parrish back to the station where he gave us a complete confession. He'd killed his niece for the insurance the way I'd figured. When we told him that Alvin Story had confessed that afternoon, old Morley just shook his head and said something about policemen being a whole lot smarter than most folks give them credit for. Expense account item 3, $11.80, dinner for me and Captain Kissig. After which I returned to my hotel, turned in, and got a good night's sleep. Expense account items 4 and 5, $89.45, car rental and hotel bill. Item 6, $125.19, plane fare and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total, $335.04. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. The taste of fresh spearmint is cooling and delightful, and there's lots of it in every stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. It freshens your mouth, helps keep your throat moist, and sweetens your breath besides. You'll enjoy the good chewing, too, because Wrigley's Spearmint is so smooth and pleasant to chew on. There's nothing else quite like it. Next time you're at the store, stop at your friendly merchant's display of chewing gum and get a few packages of good-tasting Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Always keep some handy for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment. That's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Blake Edwards with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Joe Duvall, Parley Bear, Howard McNear, and Clayton Post. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum every day. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, John Lund returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is the CBS Radio Network.
WBBM FM, Chicago.
Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, the refreshing, delicious treat that gives you chewing enjoyment, presents for your listening enjoyment John Lund as...
Johnny Dollar.
Philip Martin, Johnny.
Hold on, Mr. Martin.
Got a job for you.
Fine.
Man named Carl Nelson is insured with our company. He was killed.
How?
Shot to death. Got a police record. Small-time hoodlum. Beneficiary is a woman named Gilkison. Maud Gilkison.
Uh-huh.
She disappeared. Police think it probably has something to do with Nelson's death. Want to see what you can find out?
Sure.
All right. Get down to New York as soon as you can. Contact Lieutenant Korchak at 11th Precinct Homicide. He'll give you all the help he can.
I'll get right on it.
The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum bring you John Lund in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
For refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. When your mouth and throat feel hot and dry, a stick of Wrigley's Spearmint gives you quick, long-lasting refreshment. The lively, full-bodied spearmint flavor cools your mouth and freshens your taste. The chewing itself helps keep your throat pleasantly moist. Best of all, you can chew and enjoy refreshing Wrigley's Spearmint Gum almost any time and any place. Keep a package handy right in your purse or pocket so you can chew a stick whenever you want it. For refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Millions enjoy it, and you will too.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Columbia All Risk Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Nelson matter. Expense account item 1, $15.36, train fare and incidentals between Hartford and New York City. I arrived at 2:30 in the afternoon, and after registering at the hotel, went directly to the 11th Precinct Police Station, where I introduced myself to Lieutenant Korchak of Homicide.
How much does your company insure the Frog for?
The Frog?
Nelson. He was called the Frog. He looked like one.
Oh? He was insured for $10,000.
And Maud Gilkerson gets the money.
You think she had something to do with the killing?
Well, I think she knows something about it.
Any theories about why he was killed?
Nothing definite. Frog was a hood, long record, did time twice, been in every racket from the numbers to stick-ups. Well, you don't generally get anything definite on a killing like this. Some of the boys wanted him dead. Who or why is hard to tell. He's been associated with Ellis Hartje for the past year or so.
That's pretty big company.
Yeah, Hartje's about as big as they come. He probably got unhappy with the Frog and had him eliminated.
Have you questioned Hartje?
Sure, but just a matter of routine. If Hartje had something to do with it, it's going to be tough to prove.
Well, I guess the first thing to do is find the beneficiary, Maud Gilkerson.
Well, that's not going to be easy. We've done a lot of looking.
Well, I got a friend in town that just might be of some help.
Do I know him?
Probably, but I'd rather not mention who it is. He doesn't get along very well with cops.
Not many people do.
My friend's got a king-size allergy. But for the right people and the right price, he can be very informative.
Well, good luck, Dollar.
Thanks. I'll let you know if I come up with anything. Expense account item 2, $2.35, cab fare from the precinct to Skid Row and Het's Hilarity, a saloon that always looked as though it wanted to collapse when the sun hit it too hard. Inside, I found Wilbur Truitt sitting at the almost deserted bar, sipping muscatel through a glass straw. Hello, Wilbur.
Bucko, you are indeed a sight for sore eyes. And, Bucko, my eyes are sore. Pull up a Hepplewhite and rest yourself.
Can I buy you a drink?
Oh, noble prince, a king among kings. You've come in the nick. Can you buy me a drink? If it were not so early in the day and my spine not yet limber, I would bend and kiss your feet.
I'll just take a rain check.
Innkeeper, a flagon of your best amber tonic. Bucko, I've missed you. Do you realize what with economic conditions such as they are, that your absence has been the bane of my existence? Goodwill is a thing of the past.
Wilbur.
I once looked upon mankind with a warm smile and a kind heart. But I find it difficult to keep from becoming a complete cynic. People are pinching pennies completely out of shape. Soon the exchequer will be filled with a gigantic mass of unrecognizable copper. Why, a year ago I was averaging as much as 50 cents a day. A whole bottle.
Maybe it's your pitch.
My pitch? Sir, my pitch is a thing of beauty. An excursus of cogent puissance. A compassionate discourse on human suffering.
Okay,
My
okay.
pitch would tear the heart out of Mephistopheles himself.
Wilbur.
Yes, Bucko.
Where can I find Maud Gilkerson?
You know why my eyes are sore, Bucko?
No. Why are your eyes sore, Wilbur?
I had to brave the morning sun. Things had become so desperate, I pawned my dark glasses.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If things don't improve, I may have to part with my glass straw. The only sure method of deriving substance when in the throes of the shakes.
Maud Gilkerson is worth a bottle.
Granted. In fact, I'd venture to guess that the lady is worth 2 bottles?
You're probably right.
I'll have to call her.
I'm staying at the Yorkshire.
She may not want to see you.
Tell her I've got $10,000 for her.
I beg your pardon.
Tell her the Frog left a $10,000 insurance policy and she's the beneficiary.
Good Lord. Perhaps I was wrong. There are still a few good deeds left in the world.
Sure. I just gave you 2 quarts worth. Expense account item 3. $2.60 for a cab back to the hotel, where I went up to my room and smoked a half a dozen cigarettes while I waited for Wilbur Truitt to call. Around 4:30 in the afternoon, the phone finally rang. Johnny Dollar.
Bucko,
Yeah, Wilbur?
I finally contacted the party. She's not happy.
Did you tell her about the insurance?
The first words out of my mouth. But it seems Mr. Nelson's insurance is not enough to bring color to her cheeks and a smile to her ashen lips.
What does she want?
Some insurance of her own.
What do you mean?
She's hiding because her life's in danger. She has no money to leave town. She'll make a deal with you.
Go on.
Enough money to leave the country.
You said town.
A logical progression. The town first, then the country. Believe me, Bucko, her plight is worth considering.
What'll she give me in exchange for the money?
That is her own personal secret, but she told me to tell you it's worth every cent.
All right.
Go to 107 River Street, the last room at the back of the hall. Tell her Wilbur sent you.
Right. Thanks, Wilbur. I put on my hat and coat, crossed the room, and opened the door to go out into the hall. But I didn't make it. There, standing on the other side of the door, about to knock, were 2 ugly-looking men dressed in loud jackets.
Your name Dollar?
Yeah?
Mind if we come in?
What'd happen if I did?
We'd come in.
That's what I thought.
Then why'd you ask?
I make little bets with myself.
I want to talk with you for a few minutes, Dollar.
Okay.
What are you doing in New York?
It's a nice town.
Want some advice?
Not especially.
Make a little bet with yourself. You're going to get it anyway.
I'm a lap in front of you.
Then here it is. When Bert asks you a civil question, give him a civil answer.
Okay. Ask me a civil question, Bert.
What are you doing in New York?
It's a nice town.
Oh!
Why, you...
Hold it. You'll just belt you again.
With a broken arm?
You're pretty tough, huh?
All in how you look at it. If breaking his arm is being tough, then that's the best name for it.
Okay. We don't want any trouble.
That's a funny line.
I won't ask you no more questions.
That'll save some time.
I'm just going to tell you. Lay off the Nelson killing. Understand?
Yeah. You said lay off the Nelson killing.
Good boy. Because if you keep nosing around, somebody will just have to come down and investigate the Dollar killing. Understand?
Yeah. You said somebody will just have to come down and investigate the Dollar killing.
Fine. Now that you understand, we'll be going.
Nice meeting you both, informally, like this. Expense account item 4. $3.25 for another cab that took me down to 107 River Street. The address was an old 2-story frame house that faced the water. I went in and walked down the dark hall to the back room.
Who is it?
Wilbur sent me.
What's your name?
Dollar.
Come in.
Are you Maud Gilkerson?
Yeah. Wilbur said you'd make a deal.
That's right. But I want to know what I'm getting in return.
Look, Sonny, take my word for it. You're getting more than you're paying for. Now, how much did you bring?
I got a couple of hundred.
Couple of hundred?
That's all I had on me. If you want more, I'll have to get it.
Sonny, I gotta get out of the country.
This is enough to get you out of town. If what you've got is worth it, I'll send you the rest.
Not on your life. When I leave this room, nobody's ever going to hear from old Mort again.
You've got $10,000 coming from Nelson's insurance policy.
How long will it take to get it?
Well, that depends. First, I've got to report on Nelson's death.
I gotta get out of here as soon as I can. Another day or so, they'll find me.
Well, it'll take at least 3 weeks before...
3 weeks? Sonny, if I stay here, I'll be buried in 3 weeks.
What are you scared of?
Dying. I don't like the idea.
I don't blame you.
How soon can you get me some more money?
How much more?
500.
What am I buying?
I'm not telling you anything until I get the money.
Okay, then we'll just forget it.
Wait a minute. I'm not trying to be tough, but what I got is too hot to go around shooting my face off about. How do I know if I tell you that you won't take it to the cops?
You don't?
Well, Wilbur said I could trust you.
That's right.
Okay. I'll tell you. But give me the 200 on account.
There you are.
Okay, thanks. You want a drink?
No, thanks.
Mind if I have one?
Go ahead.
I don't usually take this stuff, but I need it. Frog left me 10,000, huh?
That's right.
Nice guy. Nasty disposition, but he was okay. You didn't know him, huh?
No.
Well, he's been with the outfit about a year now.
The outfit?
Boss Harchie.
Ellis Harchie.
Yeah. The frog done pretty well for himself.
Until lately.
Yeah, he always worried they'd hit him in the head. He was always planning they shouldn't. You know how it is with small guys like the frog. You never know when something goes wrong, and the outfit sends word to hit you in the head. Frog always worried about getting hit in the head. But he was smart.
While he was alive.
Yeah. He figured as long as he was smart like he was, he'd fix it so Harchie would never be able to hit him. Frog was in on most of the stuff Harchie's been setting up in this town. Not big in it, you know, but in it. And he kept his eyes open.
Found out too much, and they killed him for it?
Yeah, but it wasn't only what he found out. It was what he collected.
Collected?
Enough evidence to send Harchie and his boys away for 100 years. Maybe the chair, even.
Did Harchie know it?
Sure. Frog told him when he found out he was hot. He told Harchie if he got killed, the stuff would go to the DA.
And you've got it?
I got it.
Why didn't you give it to the DA?
Well, even if they send Harchie up, he's got friends. I'd be dead before he went to trial.
You want another 500 for it.
And that's dirt cheap, especially when the dirt's liable to be in my face.
How long do I have to get it?
Oh, just as soon as you can. Like I said, I ain't got much longer. You found me, and you ain't got connections like Harchie. Oh, they'll find me.
I'll have the 500 in an hour.
Okay. I'll make arrangements. Wait a second. Here.
What is it?
Well, what does it look like? It's a key. You've been okay with me, so I'll trust you. It's a key to a locker in Grand Central, number 415. That's where the package is.
Friends, no matter what kind of work you do, it's a real help to chew delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum right while you're working. When you're warm or tired, for instance, the lively, full-bodied spearmint flavor is really refreshing. It helps keep your mouth and throat feeling cool and moist. Chewing on that smooth, good-tasting piece of Wrigley's Spearmint makes the time pass more pleasantly, too. It seems to make your work go smoother and easier. Keep a package or two of Wrigley's Spearmint chewing gum handy all the time. Enjoy chewing Wrigley's Spearmint while you're working and at other times. That's Wrigley's Spearmint chewing gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. And now, with our star, John Lund, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
After Mort Gilkerson gave me the key to the locker in Grand Central, I left the old house on River Street and started back for town. It was getting dark, and there were no cabs in that section, so I headed west for the busy traffic. I'd only gone about 100 yards when a car pulled away from the curb about a half block behind me. A big black car with the lights off. I thought about the key in my pocket and the evidence in the locker that would send the biggest hoodlum in the country away for life. I had to get rid of the key before they caught up with me. I turned a corner, and there, a few feet in front of me, was a blind man. A beggar sitting with his legs folded and on his lap a tin cup with a stack of pencils.
Bless you.
Thanks. I'm going to need it.
Hold it, Dollar.
Well, good evening.
Get in the car. Get in. In the back seat.
You just don't take advice, do you, Dollar?
You didn't say anything about taking a walk.
I told you to lay off the Nelson killing.
Who says I didn't?
You dug up Maud Gilkerson.
Who?
Oh! I told you. When Bert asks you a civil question...
Give him a civil answer. Okay. So I dug up Maud Gilkerson. So what?
What'd she give you?
A lot of double talk. She gave me nothing.
I think you're lying. But we let a couple of the boys off to talk to her. They'll find out.
What happens in the meantime?
We drive around while the goon searches you. Then we go see someone who wants to have a little talk with you. Okay, goon. Search him.
Get down on the floor.
Is that your name? Goon?
Get down there.
I should have guessed.
What?
Oh, nothing. Nothing. While Bert drove us around, the goon made me strip down to my socks while he searched my clothes. When he didn't find what he was looking for, he swatted me across the back of the neck, told me to get dressed. Then Bert drove us across town to a big apartment house that overlooked the river. Bert parked in the basement garage, and I was led into an elevator that took us to the penthouse. Ellis Hargy, the czar of the underworld, looked up from his evening paper.
This is Dollar, boss.
Did he find Maud?
Yeah. Ernie and Frank are with her.
Uh-huh. Well, sit down, Mr. Dollar.
All right.
Bert told me he and the goon paid you a little visit this afternoon, huh?
If you can call that a little visit.
The goon get rough?
Don't tell me he can do something else.
You're kind of fresh, huh?
I'm ripe enough to know I don't like getting pushed around.
Sometimes you gotta take a pushing around to understand things.
I don't take a pushing around from you or anyone else, Hargy.
You think you got a choice?
Not at the moment, no.
If I want you to take a beating, you take one.
I'll make up for it.
You ain't making up for anything. Now, you gotta understand, I'm running things, see? You ain't gonna say nothing about what happens or what don't happen. So you just try and relax and take what comes, huh? You cooperate. It's gonna be nice.
He didn't have anything on him.
Nothing, huh?
I went over him good. He didn't have nothing.
She tell you where it is, Dollar?
What?
You know what I'm talking about. Whatever it is the frog left for Maud Gilkerson.
I found Maud Gilkerson to tell her Nelson left her $10,000.
She didn't say nothing about me.
Not a thing. She didn't say anything but thanks and get out.
He was in with her for about 10 minutes.
So it took her 10 minutes to say thanks and get out, huh?
Look, what do you think she said to me?
That's what I want you to tell me, Dollar.
How can I tell you something when there's nothing to tell? I located Maud Gilkerson to tell her that Nelson...
Okay. You said that.
I don't know what you're so worried about me for. Or an old dame like Maud. What can we do to a big man like you?
Make me mad. Now, hello. Yeah. Uh-huh. All right, take care of it. Yeah. Now, that was Ernie.
Maud, tell him anything?
Yeah. She told him that she gave Dollar a key. Is that right, Dollar? She gave you a key? She told him she gave him a key to a locker in Grand Central Station. Is that right, Dollar? She told him the locker number was 415. The stuff was in a locker. Is that right, Dollar?
Do me any good to say no?
No.
The goons searched me.
He didn't have no key on him, boss.
All right. All right, where is it, Dollar?
I haven't got it.
Take him somewhere and find out what he done with it.
Let's go, Dollar.
You're making a mistake, Hargy.
Nice meeting you, Mr. Dollar.
The goon and Bert took me back down in the elevator, hustled me into the car, and drove me back across town to a warehouse in the Bowery. In a small room on the second floor of the warehouse, the goon went to work while Bert stood by with a gun.
Where's the key, Dollar?
I don't know.
And you're the guy that was going to bust my arm.
Be a whole lot easier if you'd just tell us.
I can't tell you about something I haven't got. The goon worked on me until I passed out. Then he threw some water in my face and started working on me again. Oh, he knew his job. It hurt, but it didn't kill me. When I was coming to for the third time, the phone rang. And Bert left the room to answer it. I knew this was the only chance I was going to get. When the goon leaned over me with a bucket of water, I grabbed the cuffs of his trouser legs and pulled. I staggered up to my feet as the goon started up off his back. I kicked him as hard as I could in the face. Grabbed the heavy bucket and stumbled over to the door, just as Bert came back from the phone call.
Hey, goon.
Ask me a civil question, Bert. I tied them up as best I could, then took Bert's gun and the car keys. I found my way out of the warehouse, climbed in the big black sedan, and drove across town to the block that ran into River Street. All the way, I kept my fingers crossed that the blind man with the tin cup and pencils would still be there. Pardon me.
Yes?
I came by here a little while ago and dropped a key in your cup.
Oh, yes, I found it. Here it is.
I'd like to buy it back.
Buy it?
Yeah. Here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I guess I'd better be going. It's beginning to rain.
No, it isn't. It's just bleeding out. I wheeled the big car back across town to the 11th precinct and caught Lieutenant Korchak just going off duty. He took one look at my face, mumbled something about careless truck drivers, and sat down to listen to my story.
Bert and the goon?
Yeah, I left them in a warehouse. They won't stay tied up long. The boys that picked up Maud Gilkerson were named Ernie and Frank.
Ernie Phillips and Frank Seller. I'll have them picked up.
This key could bust this town wide open.
I hope you're right, Dollar. A lot of people have tried to get Hargy. Now, let's go down to Grand Central.
Right.
Oh, about Maud Gilkerson.
What about her?
They fished her out of the river about an hour ago. Yeah, okay. Give me the key.
Here. Hargy knows about this locker. Ernie and Frank forced Maud to tell them before they killed her.
You sure?
They called Hargy while I was in his apartment. He told me.
Ah, let's see what we've got. Huh.
Package. Korchak, look out!
Huh?
I'd seen them just as they came around the corner. The goon was grinning through the teeth I'd kicked out, and Bert had a big lump on the side of his head where I'd nailed him with a bucket. Everyone came out with their guns all at once. Korchak jumped to one side, and I dropped to my stomach while I squeezed out all 6 shots from the gun I'd taken away from Bert. When the smoke cleared, Korchak was down, but he was smiling. He'd caught one high on the shoulder, but Bert and the goon were through being bad boys. The goon was dead, and Bert didn't have far to go to catch up. The wagon cleaned it up, and Korchak and I got ourselves patched up at emergency. They wanted to keep us in for observation, but Korchak had waited too long to get Hargy, and nothing was going to stop him from making the arrest. I didn't want to miss it either. Korchak collected a squad, and we paid a visit to the penthouse. Think he skipped?
Stakeout said he hasn't left the building. Come on, Hargy, open up. This is Korchak, and I got a present for you.
Get back.
Come on in, Korchak. I got a little something for you, too.
You know, I'm kind of glad he wanted it this way. I'll shoot the lock and then we go in. All right, hit the door. You all right, Dollar?
Yeah, sure. Is he dead?
He sure is.
Expense account items 5 and 6. The $200 I gave to Maud, which they never recovered, and $1.50 for the 2 bottles I gave to Wilbur, who recovered 3 days later. The contribution to the blind man is on me. Expense account items 7 and 8. $75.95, hotel bill, train fare, and incidentals back to Hartford. Expense account total, $301.01, and multiple bruises. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment, treat yourself to delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. The taste of fresh spearmint is cooling and delightful, and there's lots of it in every stick of Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. It freshens your mouth, helps keep your throat moist, and sweetens your breath besides. You'll enjoy the good chewing, too, because Wrigley's Spearmint is so smooth and pleasant to chew on. There's nothing else quite like it. Next time you're at the store, stop at your friendly merchant's display of chewing gum and get a few packages of good-tasting Wrigley's Spearmint Gum. Always keep some handy for refreshing taste plus chewing enjoyment. That's Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, brought to you by Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum, stars John Lund in the title role and was written by Blake Edwards with music by Eddie Dunstetter. Featured in tonight's cast were Victor Rodman, Joseph Kearns, Herb Butterfield, Jim Nusser, James McCallion, Martha Wentworth, and Bill Conrad. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum hope you enjoyed tonight's story of Johnny Dollar and that you're enjoying delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Gum every day. This is Charles Lyon, inviting you to join us again next week at this same time when from Hollywood, John Lund returns as
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is the CBS Radio Network.